In the last 10 months, as part of its G20 presidency, India has talked a lot about women-led development, equality and female empowerment. But what does an event of this global scale mean for the women of this country, their aspirations and their lives? To talk about this, we have the Minister for Women and Child Development, Mrs. Smriti Irani. Thank you, ma'am, for speaking to us. So, in Bali last year, the Prime Minister made a very interesting statement. He said that global development is not possible without the participation of women. In the last 10 months, can you tell us how has the government strived to, create conversations about gender in a very meaningful way?
I think that at the very core of the Prime Minister's governance agenda is women-led development. But it is a narrative transition and an administrative transition when you look at how tectonically we've shifted from women who need empowerment to women who lead development. I think that for the first time in the history of the G20 universe, you have women's issues at center stage. Before India's presidency, we have seen many countries speak and deliberate on issues regarding women's emancipation on the sidelines of the G20. It is to the credit of Prime Minister Modi that he has not only brought it center stage, but during India's presidency, we've had over 100 events across the country. The Prime Minister's insistence on Jan Bhagidari, on making it a people's G20, I think has also complemented his efforts, his vision of bringing women center stage. He has done so deliberately in his governance agenda in India. Now under his leadership, that the G20 ecosystem also recognizes that the issues of women cannot be reduced to the sidelines is one of the greatest contributions that our countries had to the G20 deliberations. I also feel the way women in our country have leveraged many government schemes, especially those that are digitally driven, has also become topics for much conversation in many countries that we have had bilaterals with. The Prime Minister's insistence on looking on one earth talks about sustainability, talks about eco-friendly way of life, but when he talks about one earth, one family, at the center stage of that is women. The fact that when he talks about the future of the world, we have brought center stage our digital capacities. So I believe that not only women-led development as an adage, but also the entire ethos of his governance agenda is now mainstreamed in G20.
So ma'am, when we talk about women-led development, there's also this concern about missing women in India's workforce. I know the government has been trying very hard to improve female participation in India's workforce. Are you optimistic?
I'm absolutely optimistic because I think that when you talk about the nomenclature of missing women, are they missing in terms of participation, or are they missing because we have not considered them in the count? I think that there has been deliberations on issues of women and governance, where we have spoken about the need to recognize women in the SME segment. The world over, women and enterprise recognizes big businesses. There are conversations around mid-sized businesses. India, at the forefront of its presidency, has put together women in the SME segment as equal participants to the economic quality of a country. Secondly, the Prime Minister's agenda of Lakpati Didi through self-help groups has found resonance not only in the global south, but has also attracted the attention of G20 bigwigs. Their economic participation needs to be quantified when you talk about the labor force participation perspective. I also believe that women, not only in small businesses, but women who are doing solo enterprises who get covered under Swanidhi schemes. I think that those women also now, we have at least in our deliberations ensured that they get factored in. So when you talk about missing women, are you talking, like I said, from a perspective of women who are missing out an opportunity to participate, or those who participate and are yet not counted?
Ma'am, also the Leaders Summit is just 2 days away. What are your expectations on the outcomes? And do you think that G20 is also the right kind of platform to accelerate something like, say, the SDGs?
I think that it is incumbent upon the MEA to have that interface to tell you where the Leaders Summit in terms of outcome will stand. The Prime Minister's office is also extremely, I think we work through the MEA to speak in one voice on issues of G20. I think that if you'll ask for a female perspective, what India has already done is applauded the world over, and especially in our bilaterals or in our ministerial conferences, the kind of response we have received from female leaders of the world has been overwhelming. They never imagined that their issues will be, like I said earlier, mainstreamed and brought center stage. So the fact that my leader has said that at the very core of global development is the voice of women, is the agenda of women, I think summarizes everything about India's presidency at G20.
Ma'am, last question. Do you think awareness of this kind also helps to bridge the gender gap that many countries face?
I am very, very elated that the Prime Minister has made this the People's G20. The fact that G20 now is not limited to the corridors of power, the fact that India could, under Prime Minister Modi's leadership, showcase not only its economic potential but also its cultural prowess, also exhibit to the world our societal diversity. That is one of the takeaways for me as an individual citizen when I saw the G20 deliberations or various ministerial interventions. I also feel that when you make it Jan Bhagidari, it also becomes an aspiration for our own people. When you push for more participation of African nations, when you ensure that your country now resonates across the world as the voice of the global south, those are achievements that need to be oft repeated, because that is something that fuels the imagination of the young Indian. So I'm of the opinion that the Ministry of External Affairs will, through its media engagements, pronounce what the takeaways are. But for me, in the last 1 year, I have seen over 200 events take place in every state, in every part of the country, and I think that is cause for much celebration for us. That over 1 crore people have already participated in Jan Bhagidari events. Who knew that G20 could find such a huge scope and scape in India?
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.